Hi everyone, welcome to the Witching Week. Today is episode number 82. Today we are looking at red kites, we are looking at the birthday books that I received last week, and we are looking at some of the assumptions people make, especially when you are a witch. So grab a cup of tea, put some incense on, get comfy, and we'll explore the Witching Week. Hi everyone, thanks for being here, thank you for watching, welcome. Today is episode number 82. I can't quite believe that we are working our way towards number 100. If you're new to the channel or you're new to the Witching Week, then every Friday we get together and have a cuppa, and we have a bit of a chin wag about the turn of the wheel and the seasons and the weather and any witchy topics that might come up, and some non-witchy topics too, and we've got a couple of those today, I think. So welcome. So today I am drinking mango and strawberry tea from Twinings. Very nice, lovely deep pink colour, and it's got a really nice taste too. And I am burning some sunrise incense, which I got for my birthday. So thank you very, very much for that. If you're watching and you bought that for me, I know that some of my moot watch, I hosted them last night at my house. It was really lovely, but I had a really late night, so it feels like my brain's been a bit rewired today. How was your week? Let me know. What have you been up to? What have you been doing? We are getting closer to Lunasa now, so we will cover that next week. But yeah, it's been another very, very busy week, quite challenging in places and also quite productive in places. I was also quite unwell. I had a few days where the old ticker was not behaving. So yeah, it's here again in the blink of an eye. Friday to Friday always goes so quickly. What have you been doing? Tell me. Have you started working on your Lunasa plans yet? I must admit, I need to sit down and have a think about how I'm going to market this year. I'm so busy most of the week talking and thinking about and writing about witchcraft that it's very easy to get swept along and not actually take time out for my own sort of celebrations and preparations sometimes, and some of them I am a bit slack with, and you know, I don't always celebrate. Not that that's a problem, we've spoken about that before. We're not always going to get a chance to celebrate every single Sabbath. So yeah, if I don't make it, if I don't do something special, I'm not going to give myself a hard time. But yeah, it's been the best week. So it was my birthday last Saturday, and I went down to Glastonbury for the day with my husband and my brother-in-law. So we had a lovely little family outing, and it was just the best day. It was so good. We walked around the shops, we hung out in coffee shops and just chatted. We went to a fish and chip shop, the best fish and chip shop in the UK actually. It's been voted in Glastonbury, and they've got a lovely sit-in restaurant, and they've got such an extensive menu, so there's a full range of their vegetarian things. I had a leek and potato pie with chips, and I have been on a diet, so that was the first time that I'd actually had chips for a few weeks. So yeah, really nice. What else did we do? Oh yeah, there was a couple of psychic fairs on, so I had a reading which was really lovely, and I bought some books as well, so I'm going to tell you about some of the books. 2 I was bought as presents for my birthday, and 3 I bought while I was in Glastonbury, so I'm going to go through those with you. First of all though, I want to go back to this book which I showed you last week, which my mum had bought me for my birthday. I saw my mum before my birthday, so I'd already opened it, and it's called Wayward. I give you the basic premise back in that video before, but it's basically about 3 women over 5 different centuries with one story, so they're linked, I think. I haven't got to that point yet, but I actually started to read this. So even though I'm in the middle of other books, and even though there are some things I need to crack on and review, I thought I'd read the first chapter of this just to see sort of like how it flowed, how it was written, stuff like that. And actually, I want to say to you that if you want a witchy book, you want a fictional book, and you want something that's really easy to read, that doesn't take a lot of brain power, but that's going to have you hooked, then start reading this. I think I've got to about chapter 11 already. It's such a simple, easy read. It's got 3 interesting and believable characters. The plot is not complex, so I'm able to put this down and then not pick it up for a few days, and I can remember what's gone on. That might seem like a normal thing to most people, and it is, but I really struggle with that. So I can go. I haven't read this now for quite a few days, and I can think back and I know what's happening, what's going on. It's not difficult to comprehend. So really, really fabulous book for relaxing. That's the thing. There's a book I'm reviewing at the moment for over on Patreon, and it takes such a huge amount of concentration and brain power. It's actually a bit of a chore to read it. So yeah, if you want to know more about that one, head over to Patreon. But this one is simple. This is a real sort of on the sofa, blanket, mug of hot chocolate, read a book type book. So yeah, really, really enjoying that so far. It's Wayward by Amelia Hart. So I thought we would just go back to that, and I'm quite gripped by it actually. When I do manage to find sort of 5 or 10 minutes to have a read of it, I want to keep going with it. So that's always a brilliant sign, isn't it? And again, let me just show you again, because I showed you last week. I love the birds. See in the corner, they fly. So yeah, loving that. Really, really good. So I had, let me find them. I had 2 books bought for me for my birthday. I put things on my Amazon wish list, and my brother-in-law, bless him, he goes on there and he buys the books that I've seen on my sort of travels around the internet, or books that people have told me about or whatever, but I compile a list, and then he'll go on that list and he'll buy a couple of books off of that list. And the funny thing is, whenever he then gives them to me, they seem like completely fresh new books because I can never remember them. So this is one of the upsides of having a really poor memory. It means that people buy you things that you really, really want, but then when you get them, it's like they're completely new and you've never seen them, and you think, oh wow, you've done really, really well there. But yeah, so little insight into my world. But yeah, thank you to my brother-in-law. He'll be watching this. The first book is called Primal Awareness, and it is by Rob Wildwood. And it is a short history of mankind's separation from nature and the world of spirit. So it's all about how disconnected we have come, we've become from the planet really, and from our sort of natural state as animals on the planet. We've lost some of our abilities, some of us have lost, our sixth sense and stuff like that. It's going to be a difficult one again this week. Feels like my brain and my teeth aren't connected. But yeah, so this covers monotheism, Reformation. What else does it say? Let's have a look. Altering our environment, the return to a new age. I'm just reading out the chapters here. Modern technology. It says focusing on the origins of Western culture and belief systems, from ancient agriculture to modern industry, from primitive religion to monotheism. I can't say that today, just bear with me. Primal Awareness explains how we became separated from nature and how throughout history these belief systems and social models have imposed a life of servitude and hardship upon millions of people. It also illustrates how modern technology and the modern scientific worldview are currently causing the destruction of our natural environment. So a bit of a depressing read, quite likely. I'm hoping that there'll be something bright and optimistic and uplifting about this, certainly at the end, but we'll see. So yeah, Primal Awareness, not a particularly big book either, quite a thin one. This has got quite large print too, so I shouldn't imagine this is going to take too long to read. It's got just over 100 pages, so really looking forward to that one. I will do a birthday book haul video when I get a chance. There is a birthday magic video coming up tomorrow actually, and if you want to get early access to my videos and access to exclusive videos, then head over to Patreon, come and join my top supporters. There is a whole host of benefits. It's not just about videos. In fact, videos are just a small part of it. So we have downloadable printable grimoire sheets. We have exclusive longer posts that you can't find elsewhere on Facebook and Instagram. I do put the infographics that I put up on Instagram, I've started to put those in a folder as well. People can save them from Patreon and then they can share them on their own platforms. There is so much going on. We have lots of recipes. There'll be some natural remedies coming up. We have spells. I've been beavering away. So yeah, if you would like to find out more, head over to Patreon and search for The Cemetery Witch. And if you're not sure how to spell cemetery, it's all E's, there's no A's in cemetery. The link will be on the bottom anyway, so you'll see. And so the next book I've got is the Book of Kitchen Witchery. So this is by Ceridwen Greenleaf. And it's just about discovering new ways to turn your kitchen into a pagan power centre. So all sorts of things covered in here, lots of recipes, lots of moon stuff, guide to candle magic, all the things that you would expect really. Really beautiful, lovely, gentle, basic witchcraft book basically. So yeah, and I love the illustrations as well, I love this. Next book, all right, so these 3 books are the ones that I actually bought in Glastonbury. So I was going to show you all 3. Maybe I should save 2. I'm going to save 2. I'm going to tease you actually. I'm going to save 2. I'm going to show you one and then I'm going to, which one should I show you? I'm just having a look. Ooh, it's a tricky one now. It's a tricky one now. I'm going to show you this one. I was really, really pleased with this one. So out of the 3 books that I bought from Courtyard Books, I bought 1 brand new book and then I bought 2 that were secondhand, and they were only £5 each, and this was one of the secondhand ones. And I find that with the secondhand books you quite often pick up some really weird and wonderful things that you know you haven't seen before and you probably won't see since. Some of them are really old. I think some of them are perhaps printed and then you know there's not another rerun, but yeah, I always think the second-hand book's the best, and I just like the idea of taking on a book that someone's already owned. I think we cut down too many trees, don't we, and produce too many books, and I love books. But this one is called The Well-Read Witch. It says Essential Books for Your Magical Library, and it is by Carl McColeman. I didn't hold the other ones up really, did I? But I'll do a video on these anyway. And it is basically lists of books. So this is separated into different chapters. So for example, chapter 12 is The God and Male Spirituality. That's followed by Shamanism, The Goddess, Wiccan Classics, published before 1979, and it just goes through and it just lists all the books with a paragraph of information about them. It's got the author, the name, and then yeah, just a little bit of text about each book. So there is also at the beginning of each chapter there is just a little bit of information as well. So this is an essential guide to what's worth reading in the Wiccan world apparently, but as I say, it's got different things. So like shamanism, well, it's not necessarily a Wiccan thing, is it? So divination, you could be a Wiccan but you might not bother with divination. It's unlikely, but yeah, so lots of things, and it's even actually looks like it's separated into parts. Let me just flick back. Yeah, so part 2, the elements of Wicca, and part 1, what is part 1? It doesn't actually say. Hang on, part 1, discovering Wicca. So there's part 1, discovering Wicca, part 2, the elements of Wicca, part 3, Wicca in the real world. And so 3 parts. So we have Wicca in the real world. We have chapters on history for witches, chapters on fiction for grown-ups, fiction for kids, the body, gender and sexuality. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you any more about that. I'm going to do a video on this, and I'm going to keep the other 2 a surprise, because otherwise there's no point me doing a video, is there? So yeah, 5 very fun books, 5 very different books actually. So I will plan a little video for those. So, what else has been going on? Oh, the football. The European Football Championships is on at the moment, and England won their semi-final in the week, which was really, really exciting. I will say there was a bit of cheating going on, all of this nonsense about pretending you're injured when you're not. It really, really does my head in. We were given a free kick which went in, but then it was offside. So I think there was some poor playing and some poor refereeing. But anyway, the point I'm making here about the football is people are really, really surprised when they hear that not only do I like football, but I'm quite into it. I haven't been so good at following the Euro Championship, I must admit. I've been a bit too busy for that. But on the whole, I've grown up in a family where we've got quite a few football links. We've got a football pundit, and we are related to at least one famous footballer I know of. I seem to think there's two. We've been over this before anyway on the Witching Week. But anyway, people are always really, really surprised that I'm into football. They're always really surprised as well that I really like sumo wrestling. My husband and I are massively into sumo wrestling. We watch that every time it's on, which is every other month. They have a tournament. And people are always really surprised when they learn that I am quite short. I'm 5'4". So, well, I guess I'm average, aren't I? I guess I'm average, and I'm shrinking. So I'm getting on the small sort of side, and also I'm not rich. People are always really, really surprised at this, and they're probably quite surprised when they realise that I'm quite left-leaning as well. So I'm very much a socialist. I want our society to support and look after and not look down upon any person in our society at all. So I think being a witch, I think that is where some of this kind of confusion comes from. I mean, obviously when we interact with people online and we chat with them and stuff, we're going to form a picture in our heads, and it's really, really interesting when you do meet people that you've met online, because often they're not what you expect or what you imagine. Sometimes if there is video going on like this, then you're exactly what they imagine because they get to see you. But things like height is often quite a surprise, and interest and stuff like that. And I think that's the thing, isn't it, with witchcraft, is that people think, well, if you're into tarot and crystals and witchy things and animals and reading, and if you're quite sort of quiet like I am and a bit of an introvert, they don't imagine you to be like really into football. So I was wondering, have there been any assumptions that have been made about you that have amused you or have been like wildly inaccurate? Have you maybe met anyone before who you imagined to be completely different to how they sort of were and how they turned out? Maybe that was really, really positive, or maybe it was a really negative thing. Many moons ago, when I was dating, I arranged to meet up with someone, and I had been talking with them for about 3 months at that stage before I met them. And I thought there was a really, really clear connection between us. I'd really enjoyed their company sort of online and on the phone and texting and stuff like that. And then when I met this person, it was just absolutely hideous. They were hideous. I mean, there was a couple of things about their sort of body odour and their basic hygiene, which was a total no-no for me anyway. But the person that they'd come across as, they were not like that in real life. And that did not go anywhere. And they were quite angry at that. And so I learned after that if I ever meet anyone online, then we will meet fairly quickly in person, rather than chatting online and feeling like you've built this really deep connection with someone, well, as deep as you can sort of online. I'm not saying you can't, you can. That's the point. I chatted to this person for 3 months and thought there was a deep connection, and then I met them and it was just absolutely awful. So yeah, let me know, do people make assumptions about you? People do make them about me a lot. They imagine that I'm tall, and I can only imagine that's because, you know, I do things like these videos and I probably come across like I'm quite confident, and in many ways I am. I'm actually quite a shy, quiet person as well, unless I'm with my friends. But yeah, people always think that I'm going to be tall. They always think that I'm going to be at least 5'7", which is really weird. Like we are hobbits in our house. I am hobbitesque. I am short and reasonably dumpy. I'm like a little hobbit. So yeah, but I'd love to know some of the assumptions. Oh, the other one is people think that I'm going to be a bit spooky. Because I live on a cemetery, they think that I must be like really, really massively into, not Samhain, but Halloween. And they imagine that I must really, really like horror stories. And really, I'm not dark at all. I'm actually quite the opposite. I used to watch horror films when I was a kid. I don't mind now if there is a really good plot and there's not gratuitous stuff in it. Otherwise, I'm not really interested in dark things. I'm happy to give them a miss. Although The Wicker Man, my favourite film, now that is a horror story, but it's just so cleverly crafted, and a lot of it is about what you don't see, and it's about your imagination. But yeah, I love it. I love hearing people's assumptions. And yeah, seeing sort of some of that picture that people form. So yeah, I thought it would be really nice if we could, if you could tell me about some of the assumptions that people make about you. Sometimes they could be really funny, can't they? So what's next? Oh yeah, there was something, you may well have heard this, but I was really overjoyed to hear about this last week. I meant to put it in last week's Witching Week, but I just completely forgot to write it down. But in September of this year, the University of Exeter are offering a postgraduate course in magic. So this is an MA in magic and occult sciences. So a postgraduate course, that means you have to have a degree already. I don't have one, so as far as I'm aware, I'm not able to do this course. I would absolutely love to do this course. I do have several diplomas, so I have quite a few points, but I don't think that counts. I think you actually have to have a degree, and it's basically a degree in magic. So at the University of Exeter, they have the Centre for Magic and Esotericism, and this course is going to explore the impact of magic and witchcraft on society. So they're going to draw on drama, religion, psychology, sociology, philosophy, archaeology, history, literature. So it sounds like an absolute dream. And they're saying that because there has been a decline in organised religion, there has been a bigger interest in things like crystals and tarot and folklore and witchcraft. And so it's led them to decide to basically hold this course. So I would love to do it. It would be just a dream come true. I do not have time to do, even if I had a degree, I wouldn't have time to do it, unfortunately. But I would definitely really, really consider it. Shamanism apparently is the fastest growing religion currently. And yeah, so let me know, have you heard of this course? Is it something you could do perhaps? Maybe you've got a degree already. I don't know what the requirements are, whether you have to have a degree in a certain topic. I'm not sure if it works like that. I mean, obviously something like sociology or psychology or history is going to go well with this particular course. I don't know if you have to have a particular undergraduate course or whether you just have to have a degree. So, you know, if you had a bachelor's in maths, for example, is that going to be enough? I don't know if they're looking for sort of skill in other areas or whether they're just looking for skill in learning, but how fabulous, an actual degree in magic and occult sciences. Well, a master's degree. So I know I keep going on about it, but we really have had the worst weather. So this week has been, and I'm looking out now, and it's blue skies in the morning. We're not completely blue skies, we've got lots of cloud, and the cloud is building up, and that has pretty much been a pattern, except quite a few of our days have started grey, and we've just had grey all week. every day and lots of rain. So yesterday when I had the moot over, it rained all day long and it rained all evening long. And it wasn't supposed to, and they keep saying that, oh no, it's going to be dry and it's going to be cloudy, but then it will rain and then it will just keep continuing, and they're not getting the forecast right, which obviously it's not. It's they're not always going to get it right, but it's been so miserable and I have been cold, and I know I've been moaning about it and I'm sorry about that, but it's just like so cold in our house because of it. It is literally like the summer, apart from maybe one day, the summer has not arrived this year, and we are nearly halfway into July, and then we'll soon be in August, and we're on the decline then. So this is going to be a difficult winter coming up, I think, for some of us who never really got a reprieve from the cold. So yeah, one thing I have noticed is the red kites have been flying over the cemetery lots. It's been really lovely. Every time I've gone out there though to film them, to put on the Witching Week, while we talk about them as a subject, they swoop down and they disappear. So they know I'm trying to catch them. I'm just looking out there now. No, it's just crows or ravens out there now. But yeah, absolutely beautiful animals. I thought we could look them up and we could talk about them. There is not a lot online about magical correspondences, actually. There is a little bit of sort of like Native American totem information, but it seems that they're not one of the main animals when you think of magical correspondences and associations. Like when you think of a swan, there's lots of articles on that, but whenever I sort of think about magical correspondences, I really think about what they mean to me and what I associate with them. And again, we've been over this on the Witching Week. That's really how magical correspondences are formed. So yes, there are magical correspondences that are common, that people use and people have been using for centuries. So for example, associating roses with love, and it's absolutely fine to use other people's magical correspondences. That comes under the remit of pattern magic. But it's important that we do consider our own relationships with things. So if you associate roses with heartbreak, you are not going to want to use roses in a self-love spell, for example, because you associate that with heartbreak. So I know that people have the tendency to think that unless it's been written in a book by someone like Scott Cunningham, it doesn't count, or any other author, and that if they create their own magical correspondences, that doesn't count. But actually it's quite the opposite. It's about our own interpersonal magical relationships with things. When we create these connections and we form these connections, that gives them strength, and so they're powerful to us, because we are the magical ingredient in our magic. So if something has a meaning to us, then we should use that in our magic. It's really, really powerful and important. So yeah, red kites, fascinating birds. So we hunted them nearly to extinction. It was considered that they were quite dangerous animals. They were considered a threat to game bird and also to domesticated animals. So they were hunted out. And then we introduced protection for them, and actually, they've recovered really, really well. They're doing really well, but they have been protected from one of the world's longest running protection programs, and as a result, now they're doing brilliantly. We have about 4,600 pairs. That's the estimation, and they are found mainly in Wales, South East England, Yorkshire and the East Midlands, where I am. And I'm looking out there and I keep thinking, is that one? No, that was a really large seagull. So apparently they were common in Shakespearean London, and they used to be fed on scraps, or they would come down and feed on scraps, and they used to steal bits of rag apparently for their nests, which I thought was quite a picture in your head, this idea that these huge birds would come down and feed and take things that they shouldn't. So their wingspan can be up to 2 meters. So we're talking 175 centimeters to about 195 centimetres, and on average the female is up to about 5% bigger than the male. So a really, really large bird of prey. That said, they are mainly scavengers. If they can scavenge food, they will. That's their preferred method apparently. And they have been reintroduced into Scotland and England. So they make a beautiful noise as well. It's almost like, I don't know, it does sound very hawky, like you can tell it's a bird of prey, but at the same time they can make this sort of mewing sort of noise, almost a bit cat-like. It's a weird one, but yeah, absolutely beautiful. Now, when I think of red kites, I think of their majesty. So they're very, very majestic. The way they glide around, it gives you that sense of freedom. So majestic, graceful, freedom. They're full of grace. And I imagine them to be quite gentle as well. I don't think of them in quite the same way as I might think of an eagle or a Harris hawk. And I guess as well because they're scavengers, and they don't mind eating dead and smelly things. I think of them as being that much more gentle, as something that is an outright sort of hunter. And they do hunt. They're not complete scavengers. They will, I believe they'll eat mice and things like that. But they have a very different energy and vibe about them to some other sort of large birds of prey. Because they will eat dead and smelly things and, roadkill and stuff like that. Of course, I suppose we think of like perhaps that side of life. So some people connect them to the underworld, and because of that connection they then associate them with sort of psychic awareness and psychic ability. And I just think of them as being open because they have these large wings, this huge wingspan, and the way they just glide with their bodies fully open and their wings out. I think of an openness with them. So people often ask me, but how do you use these magical correspondences for things like birds? I understand plants, I understand herbs, because I can use that within my spell. Well, you can use visualization. You can imagine that you are that bird and you are taking on those properties. So if you want to be majestic, if you want to be noble or carry yourself in a certain way within a meeting, for example, then you can tap into the energy and the power of the bird using visualization and meditation. You could also draw a picture of that bird. You could incorporate that into a magical drawing somehow. You could invoke the powers of that bird. You could call upon that bird, the spirit of that bird or that species within your magic to aid you. So there is actually lots of ways. All you have to do really is get creative and think about what you are doing, like how you are including that in your spell work. It's got to be symbolic, it's got to be poetic somehow. It's got to fit what you're doing and the goal that you're trying to achieve. But yeah, there's so many ways that we can use the medicine, as we call it, of these incredible animals and the messages that they bring. So they do bring the message to carry about your business with grace and openness, something I could probably definitely learn from. And they encourage us to have freedom. They encourage us to get out there and soar. So yeah, really, really beautiful bird with some really, really beautiful imagery and associations. Let me know if there are red kites in your area. It's funny actually because I come from the southeast and I'm living in the East Midlands, and so I very much associate them with home, with being home. Wales and Yorkshire are the other two areas that you will mainly see them, and we do quite well for birds of prey where I am. Ospreys are another large bird that we have plenty of, and we have lots of owls. We often see them when we're out in the car. They'll be sat on posts, or you'll see them even flying alongside you sometimes. So yeah, birds they appear a lot in my life quite a bit as imagery, and I really like them as well, so I guess I look out for them. But yeah, let me know in the comments if birds really, really speak to you. Let me know what birds you've got as well. Somebody in our Patreon group showed us a type of tit. So obviously we have great tits and blue tits here, and they showed a picture of a tit that they have over in their part of the world, in the US, and it is absolutely beautiful. I love birds. They are such incredible creatures, and they have always been regarded as brilliant messengers for humans. There's something really special about the connection between birds and humans. So yeah, we are going to do some cards now. So let me know in the comments what you've been up to, what your week has uncovered. A few of you have said that the tarot readings are really starting to sort of tune into you now, or you're tuning into them, and they're really resonating with you. So that is excellent news. Okay, so we have got 4 cards today. We have got the 4 of Cups, we have got the 8 of Swords, we've got the 5 of Pentacles, and the Wheel of Fortune. So gosh, let me pop that one down for a minute. These feel a bit unfortunate, don't they, these cards? They feel a bit sad, almost, a bit sad. This is about positivity, I think. This is about mindset. So sometimes we can get a bit stuck in a rut, can't we? We can become negative. We can just be a bit like, brr. Happens to my husband sometimes. He'll get in this rut for a while, and it can take a while to get out of it. And we all get there sometimes, you know, like I've spoken about this a lot this year, with the cost of living emergency, war around the world, climate change, the weather. I think many of us have got into a bit of a sad state in recent years, and I have very much noticed the difference in the cards that are coming out this year to the ones last year. I don't know if you've noticed that, and we've been doing the Witching Week for 2 years now. July, I think it was, I started, and it's very easy to get into a lack mindset. It's very easy to get to a point where you feel like you're backed into a corner, and it doesn't have to be everything. It can be one small thing, but that can be enough to just make us feel really quite rubbish and not very happy. And it can be easy, you know, as a result of that, to become quite stubborn and quite sort of hard-headed and not take the help when people, you know, offer it to us. When, you know, when someone's reaching out to us and they're literally extending that help and that hand of friendship, it's really easy when we're being negative to be stubborn and say no, even though we need all the help we can get. So I think the message here is, looking at these 3 cards, is that don't be stubborn. He's sitting there under the tree with his arms crossed, with quite a, well, not a stubborn look on his face. He's almost like not even looking, to be honest. But yeah, look out. Sometimes people are trying to offer you help, and sometimes it's a really good idea to take it. All the other cups here are upright, so it would indicate a positive action. Take the help when it is offered to you, out from nowhere seemingly sometimes. Take that help. That's where you're supposed to be in that moment. That help wouldn't be offered to you if you didn't need it. Sometimes it's good not to be stubborn, and also sometimes all of this is just our own mindset. This is our own blinkers that we put on ourselves. You know, the character in this card, yep, she's tied up. She doesn't look like she's tied up particularly tightly. Yes, she has a blindfold on, but I'm thinking she could take that blindfold off with her own hands, and actually she might feel that she's backed in, but she's not. There's actually a way out of this situation. And then finally, with the 5 of Pentacles, again, this indicates like a lack mindset and just feeling like everything is really awful and like you've lost everything and that there's no hope on the horizon. But there really is. That, you know, the window of the church is, which is what I'm assuming that to be, is lit up. So there's help out there if we just look for it, and if we just receive it, and also if we just try and be a little bit more objective, a little bit less sort of clouded by our emotions. We need to just allow things to move on. And the Wheel of Fortune reminds us that nothing lasts forever. Everything is transitional to a degree. You know, we get to a point where we are absolutely down in the doldrums and think that things can't get any worse, and then it will simply swing the other way, and then suddenly, you know, we're on the right track again and everything's hunky-dory. And that is life. That is the nature of life. If there were a card to explain that, I'd be picking out the Chariot. The Wheel of Fortune is very similar. You know, it's like what goes up must come down, and what's at the bottom will go back up to the top again. So this reading in particular is about being at the bottom, so things will improve. That if you've been feeling any of this, then this is a card to indicate that things will get better. And if you have been feeling any of this, it is worth looking at your mindset. You know, you would be forgiven for being a negative Nancy if things have been shit forever. I'll be honest, in my personal life, we have got so much going on that has been really rubbish, and we have been thwarted at every twist and turn where we're trying to get ahead and we're trying to get sorted and we're trying to get settled, and just things like with health and with jobs, and just we have been so unlucky. But I keep reminding myself of the Wheel of Fortune, that no matter how bad things get, at some point the wheel is going to turn and I'm going to end up at the direct opposite to where I've been. So it helps me to stay focused, and it helps me not to dwell in that place. So again, there's no victim blaming here. If you're having a bad time and you feel like you're having a bad time, that's absolutely fine, but we just have to not remain there. At some point we have to come out of that, and it's just that if you've been there a long time, the danger is you're going to get stuck there. So it's about just bringing that awareness to yourself that yes, I've had a bad time, yes, this is rubbish, yes, I feel shit, but are there things that I can do to help myself feel better and to bring myself out of feeling quite so bad about everything? So, and it's also about the fact that there is help out there. It's just knowing where to look and taking that help when it is offered to you, even if that's against your nature. I know it's really difficult sometimes for people to say yes to help because they feel like they're being a burden or a pain, or that somehow they're failing, or they're not they're not kind of like meeting their own commitment to themselves as a person. But sometimes we just really need a little helping hand, and it's okay to say yes. So that's our reading for today. Sorry, it's quite hard to get the thoughts that are in my head out of my mouth sometimes, but eventually I get into the flow of that. I think that's when chronic illness does become apparent. So, and I'm sure many of you that are watching, and I know many of you that are watching, can relate to that. So, right then, that is us for today. I'm wishing you a fabulous week. I'll be back on Friday. And we'll have another episode of the Witching Week. So in the meantime, have an absolutely wonderful week. I'm wishing you lovely weather, good times. Take care of yourselves and each other.